Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak. It's 8 o'clock here in the nation's capital. I'm Zainab Bala.
It's a beautiful morning indeed. I am Sunday Michael Ogu. Thank you for joining.
The headlines for you this morning. NCC to roll out 5G network in August.
Anambra PDP may not field legislative candidate as crisis deepens.
World Bank releases poverty report, issues warning to Nigeria.
Now the news in details. The Nigerian Communications Commission, the NCC, has confirmed issuance of final letters of award of the fifth generation 5G spectrum licenses to MTN and Mafab Communications. The two licensees emerged winners of the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum auction conducted by the Commission in December last year and are now expected to roll out 5G services from the 24th of August this year. The 5G network, when deployed, is expected to usher in accelerated growth in smart living in the country. The technology is also expected to facilitate substantial network improvements, including higher connection speed, mobility, and capacity, as well as low latency capabilities.
People's Democratic Party, PDP in Anambra State, may not field candidates for senatorial seats, House of Representatives, and State House of Assembly in the forthcoming elections following the crisis rocking the party in the state. 76 aspirants of the party jostling for the Senate, House of Representatives, and State House of Assembly seats in the 2023 elections are in a state of confusion due to failure to screen aspirants. The Anambra Ward Congress panel of the PDP, led by Jibrin Ahmed, was at the weekend held hostage by the party's aspirants and stakeholders over its inability to present the original result sheets. The panel members had directed the aspirants who were contesting the National Assembly elections and others to converge in the party's office for briefing before the Ward Congress. But trouble started when they presented the photocopies of the results sheets.
And now the World Bank has said that Nigeria's effort at reducing poverty might hit the rocks if certain economic issues are not addressed. These include low human capital, labor market weaknesses, and exposure to shocks. This is contained in the new World Bank report titled A Better Future for All Nigerians, Nigeria's Poverty Assessment 2022. The report represents the culmination of the World Bank's engagement on poverty and inequality, relevant data and analytics in Nigeria in the past 2 years. The report draws its conclusion from the 2018-2019 Nigerian Living Standards Survey, which provided Nigeria's first official poverty numbers in almost a decade, as well as the Nigeria's COVID-19 longitudinal phone survey.
Now, in other news, President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday received the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres at the State House in Abuja. He was received by top government officials. Now, earlier in the day, he visited the UN House in Abuja alongside some top officials and diplomats of the agency. Guterres is on a 2-day official visit to Nigeria, the first of such. The UN chief had arrived in Nigeria on Tuesday and also visited Borno State, where he proposed the reintegration of repentant terrorists. This, he said, is key to the restoration of peace in the northeast region. The UN scribe also performed the wreath-laying ceremony in honor of the August 26, 2011 suicide bomb attack victims.
Antonio Guterres, the United Nations Secretary General, on his maiden visit to Nigeria. The importance of this visit cannot be lost on anyone in this country, indeed on the entire African continent. Coming at a time when the entire global attention is focused on the unfortunate situation in Ukraine, we in this region are feeling already that the world is forgetting about us. There can be no better assurance that the world is with us as we confront extremist terrorist organizations, hunger, and the enormous problems of dealing with millions of displaced people than this important visit. This visit is not therefore just a visit, but a meeting of minds and aspirations on what must be done to assist our country and the troubled sub-region.
Yesterday, I had the opportunity to visit Borno State. And I must confess, I arrived in Borno with the impression caused by so many years in which I was hearing stories about how dramatic the situation was, how terrible the suffering of the people, how impossible to control the terrorist activities, a sense of despair. But the Borno I met yesterday was the Borno of hope. And I saw an enlightened policy aiming not only at defeating militarily the terrorists, but at addressing the root causes of terrorism. I saw the governor committed to reestablish the confidence between the people and the government, committed to provide the people in their different villages around the state the capacity to protect themselves, committed to create conditions for the return of the displaced, but also for the reintegration of those that have abandoned Boko Haram, that have finally discovered that terrorism is a crime against humanity and a crime against God's will, and that now needs support to reintegrate in the society. And that support I could witness in the visits I made.
And there you go. In 2018, President Muhammadu Buhari administration unveiled the roadmap meant to transform the aviation industry. On the roadmap are the national carrier, airport concession, airport leasing company, aircraft maintenance organization, Aerotropolis, and an improved workforce for the sector. But 7 years into the life of the current administration, there is increasing concern and pessimism over the delay in the implementation of the roadmap. And joining me in the studio at this point to look at these issues and x-ray all of this concern, it's aviation researcher and publisher, Mr. Godi Ike.
Yeah.
Are we correct with that pronunciation, sir?
Yeah, that's correct.
You're welcome
thank you.
with us. We would also be joined via the phone from Lagos by Daily Trust aviation correspondent Abdulateef Aliyu. Mr. Godi, thanks for joining us on this conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
What would you make, of that laudable aviation roadmap? It wasn't something we were seeing for the first time. During the Jonathan administration, I recall Stella Oduah touring around the world with a blueprint around Aerotropolis and how that would transform the aviation sector and impact heavily both on our GDP and the Nigerian economy. What seemed to happen when it comes to aviation in Nigeria? Have we taken it for merely a talk shop sector, or are we missing the fact that that sector truly does have the capacity to impact the Nigerian economy?
Michael, answering this question is quite a tricky one, and I'll tell you true, difficult to deal with. I will only describe my experience researching and publishing issues of aviation and taking it so deeply that I always challenge the professionals in there. I say, if anybody thinks I'm talking nonsense, come to a TV show or a radio show and challenge me, and let's talk about these things, and then we'll see who knows it better than the other. But nobody's accepting those kind of challenges. My observation is that the Ministry of Aviation in Nigeria is an enclave. If you understand my description of an enclave, a place that is emasculated, a place that you get in and you get sucked in, and even if you came with a new idea, if you don't have that strength of character to resist what you do not want, you get twisted to join the old order. And then you begin, unconsciously, you begin to act in accordance with the old order. That seems to be what's going on. Call it speculation if you like, but this is my observation, because I have had the rare privilege of meeting the Honorable Minister Hadi Sirika a young man that I so admired when he was appointed the Minister of Aviation, and then watching him, you know, say a few things on TV and on radio and the rest of them, I had hoped that at last the aviation sector has gotten, you know, some smart young man that will take us through and get us to the destination that we've all been desiring. But along the line, I found that things weren't moving as fast as they should. And of course, sometime in 2018, he did the 5th Aviation Stakeholders Forum. Michael, I was there, live. Every word any individual said in that place are recorded graphically. Every presentation the Honorable Minister made, and then we asked questions, and beyond that, I'm giving you all this background for you to understand the frustration and how we feel. Beyond that, I had another rare opportunity of being on NTA live for 1.5 hours with the Honorable Minister Hadi Serika, and we discussed all issues. I even asked him questions, and you know, which he answered. And then after that, I thought he needed some help, and I began to make phone contacts to initially. I'm giving this information so that you'll understand what seems to be the issue. He clearly agreed that we would be meeting so that we'll share ideas, and I can tell him a few observations, because when you sit in there, you won't see what the other people out there, you know, are seeing. Made an appointment, but tell you what, Mike, he didn't keep that appointment until this day. Somebody somewhere, you know, simply said, hey, this one is not one of us. Why do you need to see him? And then that's how he fizzled away up until this day. I have this platform of WhatsApp. Every director in that ministry, including the minister himself, every one of them is a member of that platform. They see everything everybody's saying. I mean, whatever I post there, personally, they see and they read, but you would never get anyone react or respond to what's going on. Just a few days ago, as if I knew that you people would be inviting me to have this discussion, just a few days ago, after arranging for the stakeholders to have a Zoom meeting, my friend in Texas, the United States of America, offered me a Zoom meeting platform that can take a minimum of 500 people. That's how huge that Zoom, and then gave it and said, listen, do what your aviation stuff, and let's see how we can fix this aviation stuff in Nigeria. Without the Honorable Minister being on that kind of Zoom meeting, it wouldn't make sense.
That's true. I would
yes.
want to interject you at this point.
Yes.
And bring in Abdulateef Aliyu, aviation correspondent from Lagos. Good morning, Abdulateef. Can you hear us, Abdulateef?
Yes, very well. Good morning.
Good morning, Abdulateef.
Yeah, good morning. I can hear you.
Okay, I think we will solve the technical issues. Before we do that, we will stay with Mr. Godi. When you say the ministry gets to suck everybody who comes there in, is it a function of the old order not wanting to move on, or the ministers not stamping their foot? Because we have seen daredevil reforms take place in other sectors, and they have succeeded. We saw the banking reforms.
Of course.
We saw the pension reforms. It was insistence from the top, regardless of how players in the industries wanted it or not. So is it about a minister who is distracted by a political ambition, or is it just about the sector that seems to want to play to the gallery?
I hold the minister responsible. He came with when he came in, he appeared to, enthusiastic. He appeared enthusiastic and wanted to really do something. But as soon as he got sucked in, he began to play along with the old order. But I tell you what, Mike, the reason this is going on in this nation is that there are no consequences for bad behavior. That is the reason this is going on, and especially at this time in this regime we have on our hands, it would seem that people who are invited to serve appear to be the bosses rather than the Mr. President who appointed them.
Okay, now talking about
Yes.
the President, just 1 year and a month, for this administration to fizzle out. Stakeholders are worried, about the future of this roadmap.
Yes.
Where do you see this going?
Oh, well, you see, if you are not able to communicate and you are not able to hold conversations as an interested party, I mean, how can I be doing the burning the midnight oil I do in researching every inch of the aviation sector and publishing? A man that probably has over 160 30-minute videos of research works published on YouTube. It's not a mean joke. And a man, you can just wake up and ask him anything on the surface of this earth about aviation, and he doesn't need to look into any books or any reference to begin to give you answers about what you need to hear. Haven't gotten that far. If you were elsewhere where people have value for knowledge, if I knock at the door of the aviation sector, I want to talk to somebody about something I'm bugged about, they will give me audience. But we have on our hands people who have become too big-headed to be taught or to share views or to share knowledge and share ideas. And of course, they go on in a manner that sends a message. Nothing can happen. We're in charge. And we can do whatever we like. You guys can make your noise out there. That's the attitude. Otherwise, just 3 days ago, after we had set up what we thought would bring fresh ideas about how to move the sector forward, via a Zoom meeting that will involve all stakeholders that are interested in coming in. Remember, I told you the platform of that Zoom would take nothing less than 500 participants. That's how huge the arrangement has been made. And I picked up my phone and I called the Honorable Minister, Michael, and from the ringtone that I got, it was obvious that he wasn't in this country. He was somewhere either in the United States of America or somewhere in the world, because that ringtone wasn't a Nigerian ringtone. And I persisted. I called that number severally, and then he sent me a text message that he was busy and would get back. Up until this moment, Mike, this happened not 4 days ago. Up until this moment, he hasn't gotten back. And I've called once or twice more, having waited for about 48 hours. He won't pick the course anymore, and he won't get back. Okay. I mean, who is the boss and who is the servant? For goodness sake, appointees are our servants. We are the bosses.
That's true.
Right.
So I understand the technical issues have now been fixed. Good morning, Abdulateef.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We would like to get a proper perspective of what seemed to be happening around the aviation sector. Can you give us a rundown of what has been stalled with regards to this aviation roadmap? What has happened to it? What have we achieved in the roadmap, and what seemed not to be moving at all?
Yes, thank you very much. The aviation roadmap, like we have rightly observed, actually was the brainchild of the present administration 7 years ago. And I could recall vividly then when the Minister of State for Aviation then, when he was first appointed, that was one of the stakeholders forum he convened, and where he unveiled this roadmap, which has close to 6 projects underneath. And some of these projects, like we rightly mentioned, the national carrier, the airport concession, aviation leasing, aircraft leasing company, aero refer to Aerotropolis. You know, Aerotropolis is like a community around the airport, like a big community around the airport. That's what we see in most of the advanced countries, where the airport is not just a place where you can just go board your flight. It encompasses a lot of things and so on. So this project under this aviation roadmap, and as of today, where we are seeing some actions with regard to the national carrier as well as the airport concession. You recall recently that the government advertised for interested bidders to actually come forward and bid for some of these airports. And what we were told was that in April, the concessionaires for these 4 airports, talking about the Murtala Mohammed Airport, the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport, Abuja, Port Harcourt International Airport in Rivers State, and Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano. Those are the 4 major airports, the so-called viable airports in Nigeria. So we were told the interested bidder, the preferred bidder will be unveiled in April. And now, the month of April has gone. We are presently in May. We don't really know what is happening as far as the airport concession is concerned. When you talk about the national carrier, yes, presently they are also on the procurement stage, at the stage where they are looking for the investors to come and to show interest in this, in establishing the national carrier. And you recall that, especially on this issue of the national carrier, it has missed a lot of targets. We recall in 2018 when we unveiled the logo, the name at an air show in London, and so on. In 2018, but we were surprised the same year when the Federal Executive Council actually cancelled the project. But the minister kept on saying that the project is not dead, and so on and so forth. But as of today, they say we are still on procurement stage. And that is why a lot of stakeholders are really concerned. They are really worried that, fine, the minister is so keen, is so enthusiastic about some of these projects. I mean, these are life-changing projects. These are projects that will really, really drive the development of the industry if really actualized. But as of today, 6 projects under a roadmap, none of the projects has actually come to reality. And a lot of stakeholders are worried that the government is virtually winding down 7 years into the 8 years of the administration. We have not seen any of these projects realized. They say we are still on procurement stage. Well, yes, the concern is so glaring. A lot of stakeholders are really worried. Are these not going to be another abandoned project? Can any of these projects actually come to fruition in the life of this administration? But at the moment, I'm talking of the national carrier, the airport concession, they said they are on procurement stage. But how far they have gone with the procurement, we cannot really ascertain.
Well, thank you so much, Abdulateef, for that update. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
So, Mr. Gordy, let me get back to you.
Yes.
Our reporter spoke about, the Nigeria carrier, Nigeria Air. And then, hopefully, we were told that it will come to fruition this year. But stakeholders are also worried at the same time because they've not seen green light. What would you say about Nigeria Air? Do you see that project seeing the light of
let
day?
me start from the positive to whatever else that they're into. I stumbled into a piece of video 2 days ago. It was the acting director general of ICRC, the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, Mr. Joe Ohiani. That is the current, acting managing director, Joe Ohiani. And I heard him, explaining away to the world that everything that needed to be done had been done, and that they were hoping that on or before the end of this year, that Nigeria Air will be in the skies. And so, of course, I would imagine that those listening to him, he was addressing, might have taken those with a pinch of salt, because we hear this all the time, and nothing seems to be happening. Now, answering your question more directly, there is no way to know exactly what will happen. You remember the last time I was in this studio, I did say to you that my attitude now is keep my fingers crossed, wait for the deadline or the dates that they give to us. When the day comes and passes and nothing happens, then if we have anything to say, we would say. At the moment, that enclave called the Ministry of Aviation is so tight that you can't get a word out of anybody's mouth. That is the sad part of it. And so, and if somebody that has appeared on a very serious channel such as NTA for a whole 1.5 hours with the Honorable Minister, sharing information, sharing ideas, and having what I consider to be a wonderful conversation, on air at a time. And then if those of us that are out there seeing what he cannot see from where he's been emasculated, want to prefer information and let him know, the feelings of people out there and what people are saying and what he should pay attention to, and he's not interested in getting the information. He's not interested in being kind of redirected to pay attention to what needs to be tackled or dealt with. How are you going to answer this kind of question, my dear? Tell me how you're going to answer this question when those that are saddled with the responsibility are not communicating and are not, you set a deadline, you miss the deadline, and you say nothing about it. And people who are interested ask questions, you won't answer, and then try to get hold of you, you will make yourself available. Tell me how you're going to help a nation that behaves this way. No, tell me.
Coming back to you, Abdulateef, I hope you're still there with us.
Yes, I'm
So, we know you have covered this sector for a while. Is there any other information you have been able to lay your hands on with regards to this roadmap? Is there something else you think is brewing on the background that that you think we should know that the ministry is not saying anything about, given the testimony of Mr. Godi?
Yeah. Basically, that's also another concern that a lot of stakeholders have raised about. It's quite difficult getting updates on what is really happening as far as this roadmap is concerned. Yes, we were given some deadlines with regards to airport concession. Like I said, April. Did anybody come out to say this is the reason why the concessionaires were not named? There was nothing like that. I had the opportunity of speaking with the former spokesperson of the minister, the former director of information in the ministry, who is now the special assistant public affairs to the minister. What he said was that yes, the roadmap is still on course. Most of the projects under it are very alive. They are not dead. Definitely they will be achieved before the end of this administration. That was what he said. It's not that he was actually categorical about when some of these projects will come into fruition. And people are worried. This is not rocket science, because even the Union of Aviation Workers, the National Union of Air Transport Employees, the national president in his May Day address also called on the minister to review his roadmap. Some stakeholders believe, yes, fine, these are fantastic projects under the roadmap. Maybe there is a way of breaking it down so that you focus on achieving a particular project under the roadmap. If it is airport concession you want to focus on, fine. If it is aircraft leasing company, which is one of the most important projects as far as some of the stakeholders are concerned, because most of the domestic airlines, they have issue with leasing aircraft. They have to go as far as Europe, they go to East Africa just to lease aircraft. But if you have that kind of opportunity in Nigeria, there's still a lot of foreign exchange, and it's very easy and also affording for them to get. The national carrier, fine, it's good to have an airline that bears the name of Nigerian Air. That is probably what a lot of countries are looking into. Already we have some domestic airlines that are doing fantastically well. They only need some kind of encouragement. So if they have this leasing company right at their doorstep, it will be very easy for them to acquire aircraft. It's very easy for them to open up some roads and so on. But if they are leasing aircraft from outside, they incur a lot of forex, which is not even available. So that is one of the issues that the domestic airlines are talking about now. They need forex to do a lot of things because the operation is essentially dollarized. To maintain their aircraft, they need dollar. Even to buy aviation fuel, they need dollar because this aviation fuel is actually imported, and we've been shouting about, yes, the cost of Jet A1 is very expensive. It's as a result of the naira depreciation, because this thing is actually paid for in dollars. So by the time you begin to convert it into naira, you see that it actually eats deeply into their cost of operation and so on. So a lot of people are now saying, can you even break down this roadmap? Can you say, okay, out of these 6 projects, we want to probably focus on achieving 2 of the projects, the one that you know will really have impact on the operation of the existing carriers and so on. But as of today, we don't really know what is happening. The government actually opened on the airport concession. The government actually opened a website where we can check the development regarding the concession of the 4 airports. And this is what I do almost on a weekly basis. I go to this website. I didn't get any new information. When you open it, the website address is I think airports. I can't really remember the address now, but when you open it, the information you see there are information that has been posted since last year. You don't see any update on what is happening. Yeah, fine. The minister is concerned about transparency in some of these issues. That is why he actually informed the ICRC, the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, especially with the airport concession. The minister came and saw that we had an issue with the existing concession, the one that would deal with the dichotomy of this work. And so he had to involve the ICRC so that they can actually get a certificate of no objection, which they have gotten since last year. But what is really happening after getting this certificate of no objection, which we call and also the approval of the outline business case, we don't really know. The outline business case for the airport concession, for instance, was approved since last year. So a lot of people believe, since after the outline business case has been approved, the next thing is to just go ahead and advertise and then look for interested concessionaires.
Yes. Talking about interested concessionaires, Mr. Lateef. Yes, just before I let you go, talking about interested concessionaires, we heard from the grapevine, I think about a week or 2 ago, that Emirates indicated interest that they were willing to assist Nigeria in floating a national carrier. Is there any new development with regards to that pronouncement?
I want to see that merely as a pronouncement, because what we're able to in some at the point that the minister had to come out and dismiss was that Qatar Airways has been selected as the preferred bidder. So I'm not really sure that Emirates actually applied to invest in national carrier, because it is those who applied. From what we had, Qatar Airways applied, Ethiopian Airlines. Well, whether they now apply later
after the pronouncement, okay.
Well, I want to see that more of a pronouncement and cheap.
All right.
You know, yes.
Thank you very much, Abdul Lateef. We know you operate within a very difficult terrain. We wish you all the best as you go around your activity in Lagos today. We will join you some other times to take updates from you. Thank you. you have heard from Mr. Abdulateef.
Quite smart. I'm very impressed. Very impressed. Yeah, yeah.
What would you thought about this? Do you also think that there's a lot of ambiguity in this roadmap, and that specific, ideas need to be harnessed on their own?
Oh yes, because it's a document about 63 pages or clips or what do you call them in computer operations. You have them all way laid out there, looking so good and as sweet as some cream crackers biscuits can be, but then. You wait for any particular portion of it to be decisively, done, and you find that nothing appears to be going on, or if anything is going on, and if they're having challenges, they're not sharing information, just like Lateef, confirmed. I don't see how you can actually help an organization that behaves this way. I will repeat, the attitude is going on because we have tolerated it as a nation and as a people. And I continue to say, if we want to develop, we can go on this way. And so we can only keep our fingers crossed, since they don't want to come out to say the challenges they're having, and to say how they're tackling the challenges, and even to ask for help if there's anybody out there that has an idea of a better way to get around some of the hurdles and some of the challenges.
You talked about asking for help, Zainab. We understand, we know, for a fact that because we operate a democracy, the Ministry of Aviation, or even the aviation minister, does not operate in isolation or in limbo. We have the Senate Committee on Aviation. We have the House Committee on Aviation.
That's correct.
One would think that stakeholders and major voices like yourself would have made attempt to reach these committees, critical committees that have the capacity to summon the minister and probably get him to address Nigeria through the parliament on what efforts we are making or what needs to be done.
Let me tell you what my observation has been. Aviation is a very highly technical area. If you do not delve deep into it, like, by the way, Mike, I am a licensed estate surveyor and valuer. I just happen to have a passion for aviation right from childhood. I actually wanted to be a pilot, but my father stopped me because he witnessed the very first crash in 1956. That was in Kano, in Nigeria. And it traumatized him because they were there when the plane exploded and consumed everybody that was in there, who of course were alive when the plane dropped. He hadn't gone up too much. My father described all those to me, and he lived with the trauma for the rest of his life. So you can imagine his loved son announcing, playing with toys, aeroplane toys, and announcing that was the profession he wanted. My father said over his dead body, forget it. And of course, as a respectful son, I let him have his way. But then I personally began to acquire tools, acquire books, acquire electronic gadgets, everything that I needed. And I delved in so deep that when I sit with pilots, I often tell them things that they were not told in aviation school. That's how deep I've dug into this profession. So you now find a situation where people who know that they need help, but because there's this attitude of no consequence, you sit in there and do whatever you like, and nobody asks questions, and then you get. Just imagine for 1 second, Boris, what's his name, Johnson, the British Prime Minister, just because he went and had some fun in a party, at the tea party, and then he was invited by the parliament to say, why should you be there? You breached the COVID rules, and the man was forced to say he was sorry. Now, answering your question more directly, Mike, in that our National Assembly, those that make up the committee, I must tell you, are the same ordinary people that are not part and parcel of the aviation sector. That is to say, they are neither pilots nor researchers like me, nor any individual that's worked in the system that would have acquired some knowledge by being involved. So what I think that goes on is that they come around, sit around, they invite the officials, they bamboozle them with technicalities, bamboozle them with technical information that they can't even understand, and they can't process. Because anything you can't process mentally, you can't deal. You can't deal with. And so that's what I think is going on. So the people, the enclave called the Ministry of Aviation continues to have its way and do the things that, the way they like.
My point really is, the committee is also open to public memorandums, petitions. One would have thought that given that they may not understand so much what some of you researchers in this place know, that maybe a public petition directly to the committee, and maybe copy it to other public complaints commission and all of that, about what you think should be standard operating guidelines, or what we should be doing that, the ministry should be doing that is not doing, to this committee, would probably further enlighten them and guide them on what the stakeholders and indeed Nigerians expect of the ministry, rather than just closing that channel to just a two-way communication between the National Assemblies and members of the ministry. Have you explored any of these options as a way of getting players in the ministry to listen to stakeholders?
In all fairness to, excuse me, in all fairness to the Senate Committee chairman, I haven't had one-on-one with him, but one of his assistants, I don't know how he got him, or perhaps he saw me on TV or whatever, and then he got hold of me on phone and mentioned a specific thing, where they needed some assistance, and I told him I was ready. I'm willing. Anytime his boss said he wanted to see me, I would be there. He reached out to me, in all fairness, and he said okay, that he was going to get clearance from his boss to know, when he would have the time for him to ask the questions he wanted to ask and get answers and stuff. That was the end of the story. They never got back. It wasn't for me to go, chasing them. They were the ones that had issues. One of his assistants picked up phone, got hold of my number, called me, spoke with me, and then I announced my willingness to help them. Free. They weren't going to pay any money. And let's get this whole thing going. And he was quite happy on phone and said, okay, he was going to get clearance from his boss, and then he would get back to me to set up an appointment and let me know. That was the end of the story till this day. And so, again, answering your question more directly, I haven't on my own side bothered to now, petition to them and write and say, with that attitude and idea that, okay, these guys know that I am there, otherwise they wouldn't have, the special assistant to the big man wouldn't have called to seek, or rather find out whether I would be disposed to answering their call if they invited me over. And I said yes, if anytime you set up the time. So turning around again to begin to write and petition, to them, it didn't occur to me that it was a way to go, since they already knew that I was willing to help them, and I was willing to answer whatever questions they had. So my imagination there again would be that perhaps somebody has mentioned it to somebody that we are considering having this individual around, and they say, hey, this is going to create us too much trouble, too much problem, and this kind of stuff. I'm just imagining. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just wondering why a serious-minded department such as that would get hold of an individual, ask whether that individual would be willing to come around if invited, and the individual said, yes, I will be. If you invite me, it's not going to cost you any money, I will come. And I will tell you what, the desire is to see that things are going, and to see that those who have worked hard to acquire knowledge are supplying the knowledge for the development of our nation. I mean, if nothing else, I have beautiful and handsome, children that should enjoy a future Nigeria, and I gave good education, the best that money could ever pay for.
Truly.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, why so much, secrecy from the aviation sector?
They alone can answer that question because, like I said, it's such a technical and complex area that the average Nigerian out there would understand little or nothing about what they are saying. I think it embarrasses them that there's one man that's neither a pilot nor an aviator that has dug so deep that he's challenging them, and that knows so much that you can't hide anything anymore. So the idea would be, if we slice him out of the circle, if you just can shear them away, it will save us, more embarrassment. So let's continue to play along with those out there that do not understand the technicalities of the sector.
Okay.
So I think it's a game. It's a gimmick, kind of thing. I don't know how else to describe it really.
Okay. Maybe away from talking about what the ministry is doing or is not doing, can you take this opportunity to perhaps enlighten Nigerians or even other members of the cabinet, not necessarily the ministry, on where we are today? I'm talking about the aviation sector, what we need to be doing in the short, medium to long term, and where we need to be for aviation to take its place of pride in the Nigerian economy.
Yeah, number one is that, first of all, we need to understand that the aviation sector is so huge, and is such an impactful sector that if we had done well with this, the economy of this country will be far way ahead of what it is. And then, please excuse me, you mentioned a moment ago about Emirates. I want to let you know that the first plane they ever flew in UAE was given to them free of charge by Nigeria. I'm sure you don't know that history. The very first airplane, those two brothers that are the leaders of the UAE, the very first airplane they flew as a private jet was given to them by Nigeria. And then, by the magnanimity of Nigeria Airways, 2 more 737 Boeing aircraft were given to them to make 3. Those 3 airplanes were the planes that made and created this awesome Emirates that you know today. Why Nigeria Airways, that played the big brother, went down and died forever, Emirates became one of the, I don't know, I'm looking for the appropriate word to describe how awesome that airline is, acquiring the best available anywhere in the world. So, haven't brought this to your attention to let you know how we have really misbehaved and gone down. I have severally on air told this nation that, number one, we need to have airports in all the states of the Federation. Don't tell me about they can't maintain them, because if you understand how these things work, you will then understand. And then we do what I describe as interconnectivity scheme, creating an interconnectivity scheme that will ensure that all airports are busy. Do you know that if I don't know your home state, but if you don't have an airport in your home state and you were to have one today, the governor of the state, if he knew what aviation can do in his economy, can actually set up some manufacturing factories to process things that you do best. If you produce a whole lot of tomatoes in your place, or you produce a whole lot of cassava, you produce a whole lot of yam, or corn, or whatever it is in the agri sector that you are good at, just for having an airport there will expose you to the world. You process these things, export them.
But Nigerians will argue that even the places where we seem to have had this airport, they have been as docile as a farmland that is not put into use.
Yeah,
so how do you advance the arguments that we need them in more places when we have small spaces where one airport in a state, for instance, an airport in Enugu can serve Abakaliki, can also serve Oka, which is barely 1 hour away. How do you rationalize the arguments that you need an airport in Asaba, and then in Onitsha, and then in Enugu,
Wonderful.
and then in Abakaliki?
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You are really getting the picture. That's why you need what is known as the state interconnectivity scheme. For instance, I'll give you an example. In London, you have the Gatwick Airport there, and you have the Heathrow. Until a Nigerian, by the way, Gatwick is being, modernized and is doing pretty well right now. And guess what? The man doing that thing is a Nigerian, a Yoruba man. I keep forgetting this, man's name, but a financial guru. You know about that. Wonderful. And prior to the time he fixed Gatwick, and Gatwick began to receive international airlines, what they were doing then was helicopter shuttle, moving passengers from Heathrow to
London, Heathrow.
And I tell you, my humble self and my mother enjoyed that helicopter hop across when we were traveling to the U.S. in 1981 to attend my immediate elder brother's wedding in the U.S. in 1981. He was the first to go off to, he spent over 50 years right there, now. And so we landed from Nigeria in Heathrow. But the plane that would take us further to the U.S. was waiting in Gatwick. A helicopter shuttle took us in a few minutes. We were in Gatwick, and the same interconnectivity can be done here. And you create, for instance, you have a port at Enugu, and there's one at Oka, and then you have one in Asaba. Now you're now wondering, oh, how can we make this whole place bubble? Airlines can set up flying schedules that will be done in such a coordination that there won't be coincidence of time. Now, if you have, say, for instance, 8 o'clock in Asaba, you have midday in Oka, and you have, say, about 4 p.m. at Enugu. All right. And then if there's this interconnectivity scheme, then what will happen is that people who have morning activities to do will jump into a helicopter shuttle from there and find themselves in Oka and join the airline that's available there to move, and vice versa. And that's the way it would work. And then again, I also recommended that state governments should take interest in this aviation sector if they really understand what it can do to their economy, and do a subsidization scheme. It happens in India. India has got over 160 airports, but guess what, Mike? Only 5% of those airports are viable. But the rest of them are working and serving Indians because of cross-subsidization, and then cross, interconnectivity schemes. These were things, and I'm not going to give all the details. But I have them all on paper, and nobody is willing to listen.
Right, we have to hold you there. Very interesting. Talking about aviation. But I think we're going to continue the conversation next time. Mr. Gordy, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. And we hope to gain more knowledge and technicalities of the aviation industry from you some other time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks.
We will now take a short breather. When we return, the show continues. Please stay with us.
Well, with that...
Okay.
And that's it on Daybreak. If you've missed, you can catch up with us across all our social media platforms. I'm Zainab Bala.
I am Sunday Michael Ogu. It's been a pleasure riding with you this morning. Please see you next time.